Welcome. And the board has met, and we're Kara to answer, or Mia to answer your question earlier. We are trying to find how we can make a contribution to our community. And this agenda today was the first thing we thought, that Mike Reid has volunteered to be our guest speaker today. And he's been working hard. In a way, when we talked to him at the board meeting, he just seemed to have the pulse of some of the things going on in the community. And some of them were pretty sad, and other things were good resources for the businesses. So Mike's been the economic development director for the past 2.5 years. He's a lifelong Olympian. He's well known in the local community. And he spent nearly a decade at the Port of Olympia. So he has a lot of contacts and a lot of experience in our community. And we're excited to have him here because he's going to be sharing ways the city's been working with local businesses to support sustainability during this difficult time. So Mike, I really appreciate you coming on and bringing part of your team on here too. And so if you have any questions, I'm thinking let's have a kind of an open dialogue if this is okay with you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so you have a little thumb somewhere, the action. If you pop up your a like thumb.
Yeah.
Then Mike will get the signal that that's a question, and somehow in the background they're going to process this for us, okay?
Sure.
Because I don't have any control of anything at this point. Okay, so we'll have that kind of format. So Mike, please, thank you for showing up here today.
Well, thank you, and I'm excited to be back with WOBA, and hopefully I know we've got some live viewers, and hopefully with this being recorded, maybe some folks are seeing this a little after the fact. And if you are, you're welcome to reach out and connect with me if you've got specific questions or ideas that you want to approach me with as well. What I want to do today is I want to give you maybe a little bit of a glimpse into my world, what we're looking at, what we're seeing, and then some of the resources associated with that. And so I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to take you through a couple of things that help inform me as to what's going on. And then I want to take you through some of the approach that the city has utilized in this economic response and recovery that we're doing. And then maybe leave you with a couple of potential ideas or actions or things to further explore. So with that, let's see if I can do my screen share. Here we go. Can you all see that? And is it showing up okay? So it should say population, housing, and employment data tables. Everybody gets to see that? Okay. So the reason that I'm sharing this has nothing to do with COVID, but this is an understanding, and I want to give you a little bit of having an explanation of where Olympia fits into a broader sort of regional economy. So our 2019 population in Thurston County, you can see that Lacey and Olympia are just about the same size, give or take about 1,000 people. Unincorporated counties a lot larger, and Tumwater is on the rise there. So that's where you can sort of see the geographic, where people live. It's much different where people work. That's where people work. Twice as many people work in Olympia as they do in Lacey, which is the same population size. And in fact, let's go back and look at that. We have 52,000 people that live in Olympia, but we have 53,000 people that work in Olympia. And you know that not every person in Olympia is of working age. You have kids in school, you have retired people. So what that means is, let me move to this next one. Can you see this? It looks like a map with some circles here. That means every day we have 45,000 people that don't live in Olympia coming into Olympia for employment. So that's huge. We have 15,000 people that are Olympia residents that leave. So that what you can see here, and you can also see it up here, that means we have 45,000 people that are employed in this service area, which is our city boundaries. We have 15,000, but they live outside of it. So you have 45,000 that live outside of the yellow, but work inside the yellow. You have 15,000 that live inside the yellow boundary that work outside of it. and you've got 8,500 that live and work inside of it. And this is always just a bit of a challenge, is you know, from a policy making standpoint, we're so used to making policy and decisions based off of our residents. But when you have 45,000 people that come into your community and they're interfacing with it and they're interacting in it and they're earning their living in it, our pool of need is a lot larger than just our residential pool. So I give that as an explanation because the city's response has not been exclusively Olympia focused, because it can't be. Because what's happening right now doesn't see city boundary lines. Our whole economy has been impacted by this. And you may live in Olympia, but you could work in Lacey, and you may have investments or own a business in Tumwater. You know, all of this becomes cyclical. So working on ways to have a regional response, a coordinated response early on landed as a primary function here. I want to give, and I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but this is reality and we're adults, and I think that we can understand data. So here's another thing I want to share. Let's see here. I'm going to pop in and out of sharing, so bear with me. These are initial unemployment claims, so we can understand the magnitude. And I don't have this broken down by city, but this comes from an entity, it's called Pacific Mountain Workforce Development. They're a 5-county entity that does workforce development for our region, and they're where we get our unemployment claim information. And so you can see us in blue. Thurston County is in blue. I don't have a breakdown for Olympia specific, but you can see from those previous slides that I shared with you, Olympia carries a large load when it comes to employment. So these are going to affect Olympia pretty heavily comparatively to some of the other areas, because Olympia is the largest employment center for this region. So week 10 is before the shutdown occurred. So week 10 can kind of give you a baseline of that's what normal looks like for an initial unemployment claim. And I want to tell you that these are additive. So this is the first time somebody's asking for an unemployment claim, and the carryover is adding the previous week, and then when somebody falls off, it can fall down. So I will be getting next week our May numbers for what's called a carryover claim. So you can kind of see what happened. When we had the shutdown occur, boy, we went from what is a normal number of an initial unemployment claim of 351 to boom, 407. And then 6804. And then it comes down, let's see, week 18 and week 19 is when the fraud claims occurred. So we know that there's some fraudulent numbers here. Week 20 is when we start seeing some of the phasing occur, the reopening occur. So week 20 is when we started to see non-essential medical procedures starting again. So that could be an example. And so we are seeing that decline, but we are still 3 times our normal amount of initial unemployment claims. So this is just, I give this to you as some context to understand. There's a lot of these, and I could do just data point after data point after data point. We can get this information, and I have this information broken down by industry and sector and gender and race, and what we have it by age cohort too. What I can tell you is this isn't a surprise to anybody, where it hit hardest first was in our restaurant and retail sectors that were just outright closed. You can't even access them. We saw those get hit hard. the arts industries, both, and I know we have one with us, but even in performance arts, those got hit very hard and still are struggling because of that. Interestingly, though, we saw, unlike normal a normal recession or economic event, we see medical sector is one that typically is recession proof. Well, not in this case. You saw your dentist's office closed, your clinics, your chiropractors, all of those closed, even hospitals that were only seeing, sort of essential people. You saw non-essential surgeries stop. So you saw unemployment claims in sectors and industries that we typically don't see in our standard economic recession. So this is not what we're seeing is not does not follow any sort of standard that we have seen before. This is a shutdown. And so I think the hope that everybody is seeing, and we're seeing a bit of it, is that an acute shutdown and then hopefully leading to an acute recovery and that sort of rebound. And we are hearing interesting pieces. Hospitality is one. We saw through hospitality, and we have what's called a Visitor Convention Bureau. Experience Olympia and Beyond is their name. They're our local here. They work as our tourism board, and they get data from hotels. At the peak of this, we had some hoteliers that their occupancy was down in the single digits. And we are now getting reporting back that they're up around 40% occupancy. I don't think in any normal world I ever would have celebrated a 40% occupancy of our hotels, but that's incredible. And what's interesting for those that just like economics, we're getting an understanding about how our economy works in ways that we never got before. And I know that Craig Landis is on here, and in the accounting world, we don't get to understand our economy through sort of this zero-based budgeting world. And so what zero-based budgeting is, you go all the way down to zero, you cut, and then you build your budget back from zero. And in some ways, we did that with our economy in certain sectors, where we brought it, hospitality, we brought that thing almost down to zero. And then as we turn back on different industries, we're getting an understanding as to what they actually mean for our economy. So we went from 7% or 18% or somewhere in that range in hospitality, and we turned on construction, and we turned on some of this limited medical, and we start turning on some of these other things, and all of a sudden we go up 20%. Well, that tells you that in some ways that those industries and those sectors are accounting for 20%. I never would have attributed construction with hospitality, but you're seeing those correlations because of what this exercise has done to us. So I'm sorry, some of this is a little nerdy and into the numbers, but I find it fascinating. I think that maybe you might as well. So all that being said, we learned early that we needed some of this regional response. And so what we did was to coordinate with and I know that you've had presentations from Michael Cade, who's the executive director of the Thurston Economic Development Council. Yes, this is a public health crisis, but it's a public health crisis that's leading to an economic crisis. And Michael at the EDC is the economic development entity for this region. And so we turned to Michael to sort of lead through this effort. And so in that, let me share the screen again. Let's see if I can do this.
And Mike, while you're pulling up that screen, I think Craig Landis had a question.
Oh, okay, go for it. I can't see people when I'm sharing screen sometimes, so sorry if I missed your question. Go for it, Craig.
Sorry, no, I was just agreeing with you strongly that yes, there's an economic crisis alongside of the health crisis.
Yeah. I mean, what we're facing with this public health crisis, I don't want to diminish. This is a very real thing. People need to take it very seriously. But what we have seen in our community, the larger impact for us, there's no doubt about it, has been associated with our economy right now. And so largely what we have to find and fix are some of these economic fixes. So what we did was the development of Thurston Strong, recognizing that our economy, again, as what I had said before, the economy does not see city boundary lines. It doesn't care. And same with this virus. It doesn't care about city boundary lines either. And so we had to have a collective approach to this. And so what we did very early on was the development of the thurstonstrong.org website. I think some of you have probably already seen this. I know that WOBA has pushed it out. A couple of things that I just want to highlight through here. If you haven't been to the site, or if you haven't been to the site early, or you haven't been to the site frequently, I would recommend you can, down here, subscribe for updates. This site gets updated as we have additional information. It gets put up here, and this information, sometimes it's specific to one community, and sometimes it's relevant to all. We designed this site specifically as a resource for businesses, and you can see those kinds of resources here, and a resources for workers, because we know that a lot of these businesses, they have had to make very hard calls and decisions and actions with their employees. And we wanted to give them a resource that they could share in this difficult time, so that they could move through this and access and understand what resources there are for their employees that potentially they're either having to lay off or furlough or things like that. So let's just take one of these real quick. And can you see this, or is the print really small? It's hard for me to tell.
It is a bit small, Mike. I don't know if there's a way to zoom in slightly.
Let me try this. Did that help, or did that make it go away?
It went away.
Okay, let me try again. Is that any bit better?
It is, yeah.
Okay. So again, moving through this sort of resource piece, now I got too many things on the screen. Bear with me, I apologize. I'm having a little bit of technical glitch. I have one of these dual screen setups, and when I move things from one screen to another, it kind of goes funky on me. So you should be seeing the home page for this, the landing page, that is the thurstonstrong.org. And what we've done is we have set it up. You have these resources for businesses and resources for workers, and I would recommend anybody that if you haven't been through this, do take the time, take a look at it. One of the other things that we wanted to do, let's see if I can get that, darn it. I can't get this pop-up to go away, so it's blocking the number. The other thing that we did is the City of Olympia, paid specifically to the EDC to develop a hotline, this business hotline that maybe that'll help. There we go. That anyone that was having difficulty, and I know that a lot of people were trying to get different loans through the SBA, they were trying to access different resources. Maybe they were just exhausted of trying to, like, I don't want to spend any more time on a website. This is, my brain is going to melt out of my ear if I have to look at one more website. We paid the EDC to develop a hotline where any business could call for really any reason, and they will walk you through what sort of resources will be available to you. I think I see, did I have a question pop up there or no?
No, we were just popping the info into the chat in case.
Oh, okay, thank you. So that is available to you Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 3:30. They have fielded every kind of question, from reopening advice to obtaining different loans, information about specific grants, things of that nature. They are designed to be that resource for you. And then they also have been working with other resources. I had a presentation from Michael Cade last night that he shared with our council. There's a multiplier effect that when they will get one call, it may cause them to have 3 more calls. So they'll call, someone will call in and say, I need this kind of help. The EDC then has to, coordinate this sort of thing. Through this, they have had 16,000 different points of contact between people calling in and them having to reach out. So the magnitude of this, I think people can understand, is very, very large. So another way to use this site is you can access your resources here. And then we also worked, the Thurston County Chamber of Commerce put together what they call their Smart Restart Toolkits for businesses. And I know that certain businesses are reopening now. If you still have questions or still uncertain, I will say, and we'll just click on this very briefly, this Restart Toolkit is, I think, very well done. It's a deep resource of information from different regulations, understanding of the phasing, how to prepare your business to be able to do it. If you need to, for larger organizations or businesses, how do you create your sort of internal task force and lay them out to manage and do this? Sorts of business plans for how to prepare your business for returning. Sort of all of this is in here. Screening protocols for your staff, preparing your employees, HR considerations are in there, cleaning guidance, case forms, so all of that. It is, I think, a very rich piece. There also is, you can go about this one other way too. They sorted this one by industry sector. So here's different state guidelines if you're curious, workplace guidance, some business resources, so different resources that you can look at. That list has grown, boy, since last I looked at it. Specific HR resources that you may need. Here's local PPE equipment providers that you can work through if you want to get that. To that point, I just want to put a pin in that because I want to explore that in just a minute. But then there's industry-specific guidelines. And now I don't think we have any airlines on this call, but construction companies. Here's some resources direct for your industry: farming, commercial fishing, gaming, fitness, healthcare, hospitality, professional services, salons, retail, real estate, bars and restaurants. So really you can get that specific industry level support. And so one of the things that the intention of this Thurston Strong site was to be a convener of information. So in this time where it is hard to figure out what to do, there's fear, there's confusion, there's, I don't know how to get this loan or that loan, we wanted to synthesize and collect the information for the people that needed it. And so the other thing that Thurston Strong is doing is, this was our first sort of response. We knew immediately out of the gate people needed help with getting access to information and resources. Now we're moving into reopening and recovery. And the needs, I think, are a little bit different. So one of the things that was launched last week, and thank you, WOBA, for pushing that information out, we as a region are pooling in resources to bulk purchase personal protective equipment, and we're distributing those out to businesses for free. We know you've got a lot on your plate. We know that this isn't going to solve everything, but if we can take one small thing off your plate, we hear stories that either they're difficult to find, delivery times are slow, people don't know pricing, whether it's a good price or a bad price, so they just end up paying it because they're sort of confused. So we wanted to just remove that for you. So it's a simple form. name of business, number of employees, what sector, you fill it in, and there's a pickup location. It's actually at the EDC's primary offices, and those are the dates at which you can pick them up. If you haven't filled this out or used this program, it is really just that simple. I will even say for nonprofits, they're not turning down anybody right now on this. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a church, if you're any kind of a business, they want to help you. And so right now, just for us to sort of understand the need, we are limiting it to 100 disposable masks per request and 1 gallon of hand sanitizer per request. We did just get a line on obtaining touch-free thermometers in case you may need those. If that's part of your reopening guidance through the state that you need to be able to do that, because some businesses and industries, it is built in there. We think that we're going to be able to get that to you too. I would even say that if you've used this once and you've run out of your supply, I would recommend re-upping and asking if you've burned through your supply on that. The next interesting piece, and you don't have it, it's not up yet because we're still sort of finalizing, but all the reason to make sure that you are on WOBA's mailing list. We are working right now on what we would be calling a micro grant program. It's a stand-up grant. This isn't going to be, unfortunately, it will not be enough money to save any individual business. There's, as I'd mentioned before, the magnitude in Olympia of businesses and employers is so much larger than our peer communities that there's just not enough money for us to be able to provide direct assistance to every individual and every individual business. We would bankrupt the city very, very quickly if we tried to do that. That's why relying on our partners like WOBA, like the EDC, like the Chamber of Commerce to help distribute information and get people directed to those resources, that has to be the way that we work, is to sort of use these channels to amplify the voice to where these resources are. So what we would be looking at on this micro grant program is a small amount of money. It could be $500, $1,000 just to help a business reopen right now. Maybe you've got to deep clean your business. Maybe you need to buy some of the separators to separate your cashier from the public. Maybe you want to do just a little bit of a marketing push to remind people, hey, we're open now. Again, I wish we had enough money to help people solve the access to capital issues that they're having. Everybody needs more money for their business through this. We don't have that, but what we might be able to do is just, if we can give you a shot in the arm to help you reopen, that's what we're striving for. We're pushing for more detail on this program in the next 2 weeks. So again, make sure you are that you are on the WOBA mailing list, or you can get on the Thurston Strong list here. I will make sure that Craig knows immediately when that program goes live, so it gets pushed out. So more to come, I think, on that. There's been a couple of very specific things that Olympia has done that's a little bit different. And I know that Mia had mentioned that she had heard ads through the Downtown Olympia or the Olympia Downtown Alliance. Olympia Downtown Alliance came with us, or came to us with a specific request. They said, look, here's the scope of work of what we'd want to do. Could you provide financial support to do that? And so we did provide that financial support. So I'm offering to WOBA, and I would ask that your exec team or you come together. If there's a direct way that you think that we could support you on getting some of that awareness and getting awareness to the businesses in West Olympia, I'm totally prepared to bring that forward to be able to do that. So I want to offer that to you, maybe give it a little bit of thought as to how you want to execute that. But I think that, I know that there's support for WOBA to help get that message out to support all of you. So that's something that I know we could do. Another things that we're doing in Olympia, and I should have stopped sharing on that. You were looking at a screen for a little long there. Let me share another screen now. Try this again. Let's see here. This is the Simplified Sidewalks program. And I think that people think that, that this is only available in downtown Olympia, and it's not. If you or your business are on a public sidewalk, if your business faces it, we see this used for restaurants most predominantly, but we are seeing this used in retailers as well. If you want to have more space to accommodate social distancing, or you just want to be able to be a little bit more out there, or if you're a restaurant, if you just want to be able to accommodate more tabletops, there is a way that you can use the public sidewalk to be able to do that. And we have streamlined that process to make it easier. There are no permit fees for this program. We've waived all of those, and we will send our permit assistant that can help coordinate this to your business to help you navigate this. And for restaurants, if you have alcohol service with your restaurant, we've even made it so we can do this in a way that is liquor or LCB compliant. So there's a program to be able to accommodate that as well. So I know this one doesn't apply to everybody. Obviously, it has a most logical application to, you know, a pedestrian environment like downtown. But I do think that there are some restaurants and businesses on the west side that this could make sense for. So a little creative thinking that if this is something that you want to explore, I did forward the flyer, and I think actually was pushed out to your membership base once already. But here's your contact. His name is Mark Renfro. Mark typically comes with me to these WOBA, to our WOBA lunches, so you'd recognize him. But you can feel free to reach out to him with that. And then another interesting one, and why Spencer's on the line, just a resource, and this is a resource that's available all the time, but it could be a valuable resource to your business now. Let me pull this flyer up. And Spencer, I'm going to give you a second to just give a pitch for your program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Hi, for everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Spencer Orman. I work with the City of Olympia in our waste resources department and area. And I can come out to businesses for free and do a waste assessment, which takes about an hour. Looking at basically your garbage, recycling opportunities, waste reduction opportunities, the city's composting program. And there are certainly right now some opportunities that if your business is not doing as much business or is scaled back, potentially reducing your garbage collection or looking at ways to reduce waste, that can be a money saver, as well as looking for ideas and suggestions on just kind of waste reduction. So that's available. They generally take about an hour. Right now, we can do some of it over the phone. And I'll come out and do social distancing and do it in a good, safe, healthy way. But you are certainly welcome to give me a call. Again, they're free, and I'm happy to help. So thank you.
So I did provide this flyer to Craig and team, so we can have them circulate that if that's of interest and value. And then finally, I do want to leave on one note. Let's see. There is one last thing I just want to show you, and that is our City of Olympia website. Because there were certain things that we did very specifically to help businesses. If you aren't aware, we did defer B&O tax, the Q1 B&O tax payments, we did defer those. I'm trying to find where you can, let's see here. Yeah, come on. Share screen. Here we go. So this is the City of Olympia's webpage, olympiawad.gov. Our city-specific COVID-19 recovery items are here, so you can learn more about those. Reopening services and assistance. So there's some information here as well. If you come down to business assistance, we do have, so again, we deferred first quarter B&O tax filing so until July 31st. We are making it available, and I'm not sure if it's listed here, if it's up at utilities. We are making available the ability to defer your utility payments if you are struggling. We did make different investments in like the United Way. They've got a COVID-19 relief fund. So if you have employees that you've had to let go of and they are struggling right now to find access to resources, I would definitely recommend that they contact our United Way relief fund for assistance there. That's dollars for, it could be rental assistance, utilities assistance. So again, all of that's on the Thurston Strong. I feel like I've talked to you guys nonstop now for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to take a breath, and if there's questions, let's have those come forward.
Folks, you can unmute yourselves now to ask your questions if you like.
You can unmute yourself, or if you want to just wave, we'll recognize you and take care of the unmuting for you. Either way works great.
So I'm just wondering, do you have a feel how many businesses you think will be actually closing down? Do you have I know you're tracking all this data, but percentage-wise?
In terms of how many will not make it through, is that what you're asking?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's still really hard to say. All of the things that I've seen are pretty speculative in nature about that. The Olympia Downtown Alliance did just recently do a survey, and I've talked to Craig here about potentially let's look at a survey of West Olympia businesses, and one of those, there was a series of questions that they asked of, what was the impact to your business, how large, if things don't improve, what does that look like for you? So any opportunity for us to get some of that statistical data definitely helps. There isn't a reliable source for sort of broad set data right now. So I think we're seeing service entities and associations like WOBA and Chambers of Commerce and downtown associations. They're doing these membership surveys of their membership base to get that information, and it's wildly helpful for me. I did neglect to mention one of the things early on that we worked on is some just direct advocacy. I worked with the Auto Mall really early on in this process, and I don't think that people sort of recognize what happened with auto sales during this. When the shutdown order started, the guidance that was given to auto sales was that they could close out the transactions that they started, but they could not initiate new sales unless it was to people that worked in essential businesses, that were essential workers, and that they didn't have, and for some reason or another, they lost access to their vehicle through an accident or whatever. So those are the only kinds of sales. And the auto industry or the car dealerships were saying, like, look, we can do totally touchless transactions. It is absolutely possible for you to buy a car through a car dealership the same way that you buy something off of Amazon. And they can coordinate that up there at the Auto Mall on the west side. That you go online, you pick out the car that you want, you purchase it, you fill out all the paperwork, and you know, basically you head up to the dealership and they toss the keys at you and you drive away. And
Right.
they weren't allowed to do that through the governor's orders. And so we advocated for that change, and successfully we got that. And so that sort of successful industry-like outreach. So I would even say too, if you're aware of, we did the same thing with construction. Advocating for, you know, at one point in time, home building was completely shut down. And so we had our local building industry association contact us as well, and provided some advocacy for that specific industry. So another thing too that I would just say is, if there is industry specific advocacy through some of this reopening that is making things difficult, let us know. That's something too that we can provide some push on as well.
Okay, thank you. This has all been very helpful. I want to thank you for all this information. Didn't realize we had these resources.
Good.
Yeah, that's exactly the point too. So Mike, we are coming up to the 1 o'clock hour. Is there any other one more quick question, or I'm going to respect your time? Yes, I agree with Amia. Those are some great resources. We will get those out. Right, Craig? We'll be coordinating with Mike's office to get those out to the WOBA members.
Absolutely. Yeah, WOBA has, and that's again, if you're not receiving the distributions, most of the resources, if not, I think all except the new waste resources information has been pushed out, and we'll continue to push out that information. We are literally in the process of developing the survey right now to go out to West Side businesses. We're working closely with the ODA to try and make the data aligned so that, you know, Mike and the city will have a broader picture, both a snapshot of West Side, but also a larger picture of the entire region.
Yeah. And what I would say too is what that survey can do is it helps me understand how we can help the West Olympia businesses. And when I say, I mean, I think that the city is prepared to make, you know, a support of, if it's marketing, if it, you know, whatever that may look like, you know, that survey gives us some of that data. So, so I encourage you, once that survey comes out, do fill it out. It's helpful for us to know.
Okay.
Well, great. At the end of these meetings, we usually have any items from the floor, so I'll offer that opportunity up. Are there any items from the floor? If not, thank you so much for joining us on our first Zoom WOBA Luncheon Forum. We are looking to see how we can make a contribution in these strange times. We are working on some things in the background. We're waiting to see what the city does with these phase 1s, phase 2s, phase 3s. So we are watching, and we'll keep you posted on the upcoming events and what was up to, okay? So again, thank you so much for giving us this hour. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the meeting is adjourned.